We're about to go live. Thank you. Okay, good evening, members. Good evening, anyone online. To this Employment Committee, Thursday the 26th of January 2023. A special welcome to Sally Kipping, to my right, who's the newly appointed Head of HR Performance and Communications. I think the first item we have is apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Dugan has sent his apologies.
Thank you. Item 2 is the minutes of the meeting October 2022. Are you happy for me to sign the minutes, members? Thank you. Item 3 is declarations of interest. No, thank you. Agenda item 4 is the leave and special leave policy. Sally, you happy to take us through this? I believe the main changes are that the 5 days that staff are allowed to take forward will be limited in terms of when they have to be taken by, and there's a formalisation of the time off in lieu arrangements.
Yes, exactly so, Chair, and good evening, councillors. So this policy covers how we take leave allowance, and it's made the review of this policy has made the following changes. It clarifies how part-time leave is calculated. It clarifies that annual leave carried over at the end of the leave year must be taken within 3 months. So that would be by the end of June, because our leave year runs from April to March. It introduces the concept of time off in lieu. This is the ability of an individual to accrue additional time outside core hours and to take them at a later date. It's particularly useful for staff who work in the evenings or at weekends, for example, democratic services officers or environmental health officers. It also introduces special leave to attend the funeral of a close friend or colleague. And finally, as the Chair suggested, it introduces sabbaticals, which is a great additional benefit to the council. You can only take a sabbatical if you have 2 years of service.
Sorry, can you speak up a bit? I've got the microphone a bit.
Yes, of course. Oh, sorry. Is that better, Councillor Hawkins? Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Members, questions, points? No one online? No Councillor Bates? Okay. Okay, are we happy to agree this then, members? Agreed, fantastic, thank you. Next one is expenses policy. I'm not going to try and summarise this because Sally will do a much better job than I can, as she just did.
Thank you so much. So the expenses policy covers the financial management of expenses, which must be within the Council's financial regulations and must be supported by receipts. There are very few changes to this policy. However, councillors will notice that professional subscriptions have been removed. This is not because we don't cover professional subscriptions any longer. It's because we now cover that under staff terms and conditions of employment. So we don't need it in the policy anymore, which is why it's been removed. I did just notice as I was reading the policy just prior to this meeting that there's a small typo in 5.3, and we'll make sure that that's resolved. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Sally. Members? Councillor Wheeler?
Thank you. My only query relates to the fact that there's no longer the need to deduct the normal journey expenses. Just wondered if we could have a little bit of clarification around that, because that is quite a normal thing to have in there. Thank you.
Yes, so you'll be aware that HMRC doesn't allow us to pay business mileage for a normal commute. And in fact, I do believe it is covered in the policy that the normal commute should be deducted.
Sorry, 7.2, page 41, there's actually a line through it. So it looks to me as though that's being taken out. Okay.
Sorry, do you want me to do that? Do you need that on the microphone?
I think that's clear. Yeah. Anything else? Okay. Yeah, please, Councillor Tapper.
In 5.6, thank you, that we are offering 45p per mile for electric cars. I would have thought that that was almost making a profit. Not that I'm not in favour of electric cars, but strictly speaking...
I thought you were going to say too low.
I mean, even the poorest performing electric vehicles do around 3.5 to 4 miles per kilowatt hour, and a kilowatt hour currently is around about 30p. So I'm impressed by the council's generosity on that one.
Councillor Wheeler?
Thanks, if I can come in on that. My car at the moment in the winter, if I wish to have the windscreen wipers on and heating on, and I am talking about just heating the seat and the steering wheel and not the cabin, I am lucky if I get 2.8, 2.2 miles per kilogram, per kilowatt. So, yeah.
You need a different car.
Councillor Galliford?
I was just going to also clarify that charging costs for charging up publicly have gone through the roof recently. The government has always had a 45p mile on electric cars since they first, came into being. So it's not as if it's something sudden or different. I'd also add that if you are on a long journey and you have to wait for a charger that then doesn't work, I think 45p is quite cheap for the aggro. But anyway, there we go.
Councillor Betton?
Thank you. I would also point out that it also includes the cost of the vehicle, the depreciation, the insurance, and all running costs.
Yeah, good point. Okay, are we happy with the 45p as a mile? Okay. Are we happy to sign that policy off? Great, thank you. Item 6, salary sacrifice scheme policy and procedure.
Thank you so much. So the salary sacrifice policy is a policy that isn't intended to immediately go live, but it is in preparation for the introduction of the electric vehicle scheme, which I believe councillors have previously approved in this committee meeting. The intention is to bring all the information together in one place for staff, and so it covers the cycle to work scheme, the electric vehicle proposed scheme that hasn't gone live yet, and also additional voluntary contributions, although AVCs are not strictly speaking salary sacrifice. You'll notice that we have removed references to Octopus as our preferred supplier, and the reason for this is because we investigated the scheme that they currently provide, and we do not believe at the moment that we can recommend this to councillors due to the expense of administering the scheme. However, we are looking at an alternative supplier who specifically works with public sector organisations, and we're just awaiting some further and more detailed information from them about how they manage their scheme. I have noticed, again apologies for this, that we still refer to Octopus in section 7.5, so I'll remove that and make sure that it just refers to the supplier as opposed to a specific named supplier. Happy to take any questions from councillors.
On that issue, 7.2 as well also refers to Electric Dreams, which is the octopus scheme if you're undecided on your supplier, that the Electric Dreams needs to come out of there as well. And one other thing, if I may, also on 7.4, it says the process of access is to be reviewed. Should that not be, is being reviewed. I believe that study is actually underway rather than anticipated yet to take place. Thank you.
Councillor Galliford?
Yes, thank you for that update, which is very much appreciated, as this has gone through the climate working group as well, as everyone's aware. Do we have any idea when this might sort of go live, so to speak? Or at the moment, I presume it's just in negotiation?
So I spoke to the new supplier last Friday. They told me that they would send me some detailed information this week. What I really need to see from them is the agreement that they ask us to sign to check the liabilities that we take on as a council, which was the thing that was slightly problematic with Octopus. So I hoped that they would send that to me this week. They haven't actually done so, so it's on my list to chase them tomorrow morning to find out why it's not. As soon as I've got that, I'll be able to make recommendations to councillors to see whether, you know, we can take it on, or whether, you know, or not, as the case may be.
Councillor Wheeler?
It's just really about future-proofing the changes that we're going to make, rather than saying a preferred supplier as yet to be confirmed. If we just said the council's supplier of, then nothing needs to be changed when it has been confirmed. And I don't think it really makes any difference whether it's now or in the future, that tiny point.
Thank you. Any more? Councillor McClafferty?
Thanks, Chairman. I seem to remember there was quite a lot of discussion about the supplier, Octopus, and the officers were questioned about whether this was the right company and were you happy with them, and we were assured over and over again that this was the right company, and we'd looked at them, and so it's a little disconcerting now that further in we're saying, oh, now that we've had a look at them again, we're not happy with them. Is it some information that came to light just, you know, out of the blue, or why the change?
So it was when they sent us the agreements for us to sign that we would need to sign. So the way Octopus work is that they lease the car to the council, and the council then goes on to lend it effectively to the employee. But all the liability sits with the council in terms of speeding fines, excess in the event of an accident, and all that sort of thing. So what we identified was that we would effectively need to employ a fleet manager to look after the cars and to be able to do all the administration, to sort of pay the liabilities to Octopus and then recollect them from the employee. And we felt that that represented a cost that we just really didn't feel that the council could bear at the time. Were we a bigger organisation, it would be probably a different matter, but that was the situation we felt we were in.
Okay, so I fully support that decision then, but that they never mentioned anything about that up front. In all of the discussions that we had with them, they never mentioned that that was how it worked. Thank you.
Thank you. And presumably the alternative supplier works differently, as far as you know.
Well, that's exactly what I'm going
That's why I
to
want
check.
the agreement. Yeah.
That's why I want to see that's why I don't want to give any information to councillors until I have seen that agreement and tested to see whether it's different.
Okay. Okay, so given that it's still a work in progress, are we happy to sign this off as far as it goes? Yeah. Thank you, members. Next one, item 7, pensions discretions policy. Please, yeah.
So the pensions discretion policy is one of a suite of policies that we have to publish, review and publish on an annual basis. This particular policy identifies in which circumstances Surrey Heath as a council have discretion over decisions relating to the pension scheme, contributions and payments. As I say, this must be reviewed annually, whether or not there have been any changes. For this year, there have been no changes to either the scheme or the pension regulations that apply to the policy. And so that's why there's no track changes in the policy, because it is essentially the same policy that has been last year. Thank you, councillors.
Members, anything? Okay, happy to agree? Agree, thank you. Next item 8, car and road users policy.
Thank you, Chair. So the car and road users policy identifies how people who use their car for work are categorised and compensated. It defines car users in two groups: essential car users and casual car users. Essential car users have a requirement in their job description to have a car that they use during the course of their employment. We expect them to drive for work in excess of 3,000 miles a year. Casual workers, on the other hand, may use their car for work and therefore claim business mileage, but they are under no obligation to do so. Essential car users receive an allowance and claim mileage. Casual car users only claim mileage, they don't receive the allowance. As you'll see from the policy, essential car user allowance is non-pensionable and for a full-time worker amounts to £2,000 per annum. The changes in this particular policy include clarification regarding mileage claims, passenger rates, and that the mileage rates are HMRC rates. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Sally. Members? Councillor Wheeler?
It's just really how this is adjusted if they are using the salary sacrifice scheme. Does that, in terms of electric car vehicles, will that have any bearing on this policy at all? Or is it standalone, completely standalone? I don't know enough about it to be able to...
It's completely standalone, Councillor Wheeler. So the allowance is given as an allowance for using your vehicle. That whether it's a leased car vehicle and paid for on salary sacrifice wouldn't have any bearing.
Right. Any more? Yes. Councillor Tapper?
I was a little confused by the chart regarding business mileage payments. It seems to, did I read it right, it actually conflicts with the previous article that we've been discussing, the expenses and costs of procedure in respect of mileage over 10,000 miles. So it says 24p on for all vehicles, where it's only 24p for the motorbikes and 25p for cars.
Yes.
Cars and vans, 25p and 24p. Should that not be 25p? Mine's in motorcycles.
That's inconsistent, isn't it? Mm.
Just have a look. Is it inconsistent?
Yeah, you see it's 25p then, 24p then.
Oh, yeah, it's a penny out.
The rest of them are consistent.
Okay. I do apologise for that. We'll check that. Thank you, Councillor Tapper, though, for your excellent attention to detail. Well spotted. We'll certainly check. We'll certainly check which is the correct rate and make sure both policies are completely consistent. Thank you for pointing that out. Much appreciated.
Okay, notwithstanding that, are we happy to agree that, members? Great, thank you. Next one, Agenda item 9, another statutory requirement, the pay policy statement. Sally.
Yes, indeed. So, as the Chair has pointed out, this is a policy that must be updated and published annually. It must include pay multipliers and pay scales. This policy update has been brought to you a tiny bit earlier than usual due to the pay award being made with effect from October 2022. So normally it would be brought to you in the summer. So you've got it a few months early. The changes include the pay award for this year of 8%, clarification over overtime pay and policy, and of course the updated pay scales. Thank you, councillors.
Members? This is the statement that includes the average salary, doesn't it? But there's nothing in there that looks remarkable enough to need a specific explanation, as there was last time. So, are we happy to agree this, members? Right. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is agenda item 10, Speak Up Policy, verbal update. Before I hand over to Sally, I just wanted to remind you what the Speak Up policy was formerly the whistleblowing policy. What it says at 8.8 is an annual report may, my emphasis, be given to the Employment Committee to advise them of the number of incidents reported and service area. No personal or detailed information regarding each case will be provided. It is purely for reporting purposes and to detect any possible patterns. So with that, I'll hand over to Sally.
Thank you so much. So the Speaking Up policy covers the confidential disclosure by staff of any wrongdoing that they may encounter in the workplace. We may be asked, as the Chair has suggested, that to report to the Employment Committee on the numbers of reports by service area. So what we did was we wrote to people who we thought would receive reports. So those were the CMT, staff representatives and HR, and we asked them to confirm the numbers of people who had approached them to raise concerns covered by the Speaking Up policy. And the reason we asked them to do that was we wanted to test the effectiveness of the policy and to ensure that people knew when and how to raise concerns. The data that Julie collected covers the full calendar year of 2022 and is, to our knowledge, the first time this data has been collected at Surrey Heath, and therefore the first time this has been reported to the Employment Committee. What became apparent to us during the exercise is that we were able to collect the numbers of concerns raised, but due to the need to preserve anonymity and the numbers of areas people can go to report, we cannot collect the service area. I can confirm that during 2022 there were a total of 23 instances of staff speaking up using the policy. This is encouraging as it indicates that staff feel confident to speak up and know who to go to and when they need to do this. The CMT take these issues very seriously, and to encourage speaking up, active bystander training was arranged in 2022 that the Chief Executive championed and attended. In order to continue to focus on enabling staff to have a voice and raise concerns, we will be running our staff survey again in April 2023, and in that survey we are including a number of questions to gather more information about the confidence staff have in speaking up about inappropriate behaviours. What we would, however, ask the committee to consider is to recommend a review of this policy. The policy does require an annual review, and so it's timely, and it's what I would recommend, as what we can see is that we can't actually meet the commitment in the policy to collect data and to report by service area. So we want to make sure that the reports we're giving to you as a committee do reflect what the policy actually says. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Sally. Okay, Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you. I find it quite surprising that you think that 22 people speaking up is a good number. I don't know what it usually is, but I would have thought, you know, if people got the confidence to speak up, then I would have thought if they are speaking up, I would have thought, I have no idea what they're speaking up about. So do you take it any further? I mean, if someone is speaking up, then it is a complaint about a person or is it a complaint about their role or what it is? Because I would have thought it'd been quite a serious thing. For 22 people in the number of people that work here, I would have thought that was quite a high number. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's normally a lot more than that, but I would have thought that was quite serious.
Do we see what the other comments are first and then respond? Councillor Wheeler and then Councillor Tapper, I believe.
Thank you. I agree that having people come forward is a really positive sign, because speaking up could be something very minor or something very major, so it will cover everything, a whole span of things. I have to say, I think what would be really helpful is to categorise what's prompted the reason for speaking out, i.e. is it a person, is it a department, is it a process, is it bullying, etc., 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 because I think that would almost give us more meaningful data than doing it by department. If it's by department, I'm assuming that the normal management structure would actually be looking at it by department, and with the way in which the escalation process goes, you would very quickly realise if it was one particularly bullying individual within a particular department, if that's what the criticism was. So I think if there's anything that we could do to work towards categorising the reason for speaking up, I think it shows that we're encouraging people. I think it would allay fears about, wow, is 23 an enormous number or a tiny number? And what were the sort of things that they were talking about? Because it could be something really...
Could it be the same person who is complaining more than once? I mean, speaking up, could it? They think that it is such a serious thing as far as they're concerned that they need to say it more than once just to get it across, or they think that it may have more impact if there's 4 people saying it as opposed to 1 person saying it. Can you actually know if it is the same person making the complaint, or is it that anonymous that you have no idea who it is at all?
I was going to say, might I suggest that we look to capture the number of individuals, the type of complaint, because the number of complaints, the number of individuals, the type of complaint, and I think that will give us some fairly meaningful data to actually look at, while absolutely protecting the anonymity of those that are raising concerns. And the other thing as well, it was just a little bit around wording. It's not necessarily wrongdoing. It could be someone's perception that something isn't right. So we just, and I don't know if that's in the policy, or if that was just the analogy of the policy.
There is certainly room to tidy up the language.
But it's not necessarily wrongdoing, it's someone's perception of, and I think that, again, is quite an important differential.
Councillor Tapper, wanted to say something? I don't think you can come back.
I just wanted to re-emphasise the point that my concern or my interest would be whether the same concern was being reported by more than one person, which could give an indication of a real problem. If more than one person is seeing the same concern, whatever the department might be, that certainly reinforces the fact that that may be something that needs to be pursued. I presume everything is going to be pursued at least to determine whether or not the concern is valid, but clearly more people reporting the same concern would be supportive, if you like, of a genuine need to investigate. Thank you.
Okay. Can I just give my thoughts on the points, and then you can give your thoughts? I think certainly in terms of is 22 or 23 a good or a bad number? The problem is we don't have any trend data. This is the first year it seems to have been recorded, so we don't know whether that's good or bad.
We've had a speak-up policy before. But what is the point of having a policy if it's not reported on? I mean, I have seen the signs of, I don't know where, if it's something that's online that people do. You know, I have seen the signs sort of in the toilet saying, if you've got an issue, ring this number or something. But, you know, I find it astounding that we do this, and yet it's not, there is no policy on it. There is no information given to us as councillors and as officers how this can be improved. It's just, oh, we do that and we're ticking a box, which is meaningless, really.
And we agree we can do better. We need to review the policy. It is being reported on, as per the policy says. It may be reported on at this committee, and the intention is we take the policy away, put it on the work plan, and make it better. Sorry, Councillor Benton.
Thank you, Chair. I just ask you to cast your mind back to an old regime where the people wanting to whistleblow, the only people that they could effectively report to were the people they were blowing the whistle about. Since that time, the policy has changed, and we are now reporting on it. So I think, there obviously is room for improvement because it's new, and we need to see how it works. We don't know about the numbers, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, but it's a darn sight better than it was in that there are now pathways for people to blow their whistles to and not put their own jobs at risk, which is what was happening before. So I'd bear that in mind.
Councillor Gordon.
Given the previous culture beforehand, which you referred to, I think it'd be quite a good idea to publicise the fact this policy exists, especially internally. I mean, we have one at work, a similar policy, but I had no clue at all we had one here. So I think it's pretty worth doing. In fact, we are far more transparent and we do have a policy, and it is working and people are coming forward. Just to basically, if we think it's a good thing people are coming forward and are able to come forward, but I think the communication isn't where it needs to be at the moment.
Thank you for that. I also agree with Councillor Wheeler's comment that I think a categorisation of concerns raised is possibly more useful than areas.
I'm red.
Go on, Councillor Betton.
On the question of categorisation, I think I agree it would be useful, but if you've got a really small department and you categorise it too much, you can tell who it is. You need to be careful.
I agree, but I have full faith that our HRD will do a really good job of making sure that those categories are reflective and fairly broad, because it's not, I'm just thinking it's most likely to be either misconduct, bullying, sexual misconduct, not feeling safe in the workplace, that sort of thing. You will have some data on the Speak Up policy that's already been that you should be able to give broad categories on, I think. And we'll get better. Year on year, we will get better at it, I think. As a council, I think, the fundamental change from changing it from whistleblowing to Speak Up was a really positive one, and it's taken time for that to bed in, and it will just get better and better.
Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I just wanted to say people are assuming, rightly or wrongly, that the whistleblowing or Speak Up policy or whatever it was before, I'm not sure how far you're saying before, was just against one person. But as we have no details, I've no idea. I mean, as I say, there has been a poster, I don't know if it's still there, sort of in the ladies' toilet, so on the door, this is the number you ring. But I have no idea if it was used or people are assuming it was just regarding one person. But we don't know because we have no data. Presumably you, Julia, have data as to what, how many people, sort of, whether it is no pressure of work or something, but we've no idea. So I'm not sure we can make the assumption that it was just an individual, because as we've been given no data, there's perhaps only you that unless it's all shredded, taken home and eaten, fed to the hamster or something. We don't know.
Well, the current procedure
I haven't got hamster.
says that the details of the matter will be recorded and placed on a register held by the head of paid service. And we've been working on this today to try and establish how far the records go back, and they don't seem to go back any further than the beginning of 2022. Councillor Galliford and Councillor Gordon.
Firstly, the point I was going to make is also that people are free to report to their staff representatives who do a really good job as well. So there is a kind of buffer with the confidentiality, but I do reiterate confidentiality is absolutely essential. Just in response to Councillor Hawkins, one of my first roles when being elected was to be thrown into a major investigation, and it wasn't just one individual, is all I'm going to say.
Just a suggestion, we did a very similar thing at work called rant and rave surveys, and at the end of it we publicise the information. And we do it in a very positive way, so it's kind of, we say, you said, we did. So if things come out of it, for example, we have a poor process in place, we can publicise that, several people complained the holiday process wasn't correct or the work from home process wasn't correct. Therefore, we listened and we did this. So it's an opportunity to kind of show that we are working for our team, for our employees. So maybe take the positives and publicise quite heavily what we did as a result of it to improve their conditions.
Thank you. Sally.
Thank you so much, Chair. So I think that I need to make two really important points here. The first one is building on that point about culture change. You're absolutely right that the culture has changed in the last couple of years at this particular council. And I can absolutely stress that the whole of CMT feel passionately about this as an issue. I've been in this council 3 weeks, and I've had numerous conversations with the Chief Executive about this policy and the way we implement and make sure that people can speak up at work, do speak up at work, and feel confident and safe in doing so. So we are passionately committed to making it better. In the staff survey this year, we are asking specific questions about whether people feel that they are treated with dignity and respect at work, whether they have personally observed inappropriate behaviour over the last 12 months, and if they answer yes or I'm not sure to that, then what did they do next? Did they report it, and if so, to whom? So we should have better information from the staff survey when we do that in April 2023. But I just want to reiterate the commitment that we have as a senior team to this issue and to make sure that staff feel and are safe.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I feel everyone should talk on this. So I'd hate to be the only one that didn't speak up. Yeah, I know. I thought about that too late, didn't I? It strikes me. So a couple of things. You said that the register only goes back to 22. Okay, when we got a new chief exec and our new HR head is 3 weeks in the job. So I'm guessing it was Damien when he started the register because that's what the policy asked for, which is disappointing, but I can understand why it's happened. If someone speaks up to a member of the CMT or something, does it then get reported back to HR and onto this register? Is that automatic?
Well, it very much depends on the context. So
Sure.
the policy requires us to record when a concern is raised. That concern isn't necessarily founded, and it may be, I think Councillor Wheeler said it's about perception. Often HR or a staff rep or a CMT member will have a conversation with that person, and it won't be that there is actually something serious underlying it.
So it won't be recorded?
It will be recorded,
Right, okay.
but what it won't necessarily be is sort of, formally investigated.
So all I was going to say was in terms of reporting back to the Employment Committee, taking everybody's point about confidentiality, we're going to be in a position soon, aren't we, where you as head of HR can look at that register when there's an Employment Committee coming up. You can package that report into something which is pretty anonymous and say we've had 22 and we had 22 last year and we've had 40 this year or something, and there was this trend, and there was some serious and some. You'll be able to then kind of do that without mentioning departments' names or managers or anything. You'll be able to give more of a flavour once that's done. So I don't see any issue. It's a bit disappointing we've only started in 22, but because we've had what was the whistle-blowing policy before then, but we have a year's worth, but you will be able to report to the Employment Committee far more data without actually giving away anything to do with personal information, won't you? So I think the policy is good.
Okay, members, thank you for that. So what are we asking them to agree, Rachel? We've accepted that verbal report?
Yes, and I suppose, you're going to add it to the work programme.
Okay, so happy to minute that we've accepted the verbal report and we've agreed we're going to add it to the work programme to review the speaking out policy. Thank you. And the next item is the work programme. Oh, we've only got one more left.
Do you want me to take that?
If you're happy to do that.
Yes, so the next meeting, as you can see from the work programme, is on the 30th of March, and we are planning on bringing the policies that you can see listed there to that meeting. I would suggest that we also add on the review of the Speak Up policy, but actually, may I ask that we bring that to the June meeting so that we make sure that we've got the April survey data to consider in that. So if I can suggest that, and then you can see that there's a couple of things to be scheduled as well, which, bearing in mind the agenda for March looks quite busy, I would suggest we put to June as well.
Does, doesn't it? Members? So, are we agreed that work plan?
Just confirm, it says at the top there the meeting's on the 2nd of March, and then the meeting says it's on the 30th of March.
Oh, yeah. It's the 30th. Oh, sorry, right.
It's coloured paper and flowers. Yeah, no, it's not. No, it's not. Really? Really?
Shall I? Yeah.
So it is the 30th.
Yeah, go, yeah, go.
We would like to draw the members' attention to the fact that we would like an additional meeting, if at all possible, on the 16th of February. Rachel, that would be a single item meeting.
Oh, that was the one that the email came on.
Yes, you should have received an email about that. So just drawing councillors' attention to that. Thank you.
Right, are we happy to agree that work programme, members? Great, fantastic, thank you. So I think we can bring the meeting to a close. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming and for your contributions.